Aloha, I'm Dr. Linda Dixon, and I'm here today to talk to you about a question that everyone asks, which is, why doesn't my eyeliner stay? It looks great when my client leaves, but what happens? They lose all their color. Well, in my experience, eyeliner doesn't stay for several reasons. Either because you're going too deep, you're going too shallow, or you could be going just right but overworking the skin. When you overwork the skin, what happens? You get scabs, and color comes out when you have scabs. So I would say you also must check your, what are you cleaning the skin with? If you're cleaning the skin with water, water makes the skin swell. So you won't see me cleaning with water. You'll see me cleaning with Numpot or Cetaphil, a very bland cleaner. Now, how do you know what your needle depth should be? Everyone says, oh, you go in a dime. Well, a dime is 1.35 millimeters. And the skin, think of it like a sandwich, peanut butter and jelly sandwich. The epidermis is like the bread. So you have to know how thick the bread is in order to know how deep you need to go into the skin. In an elderly, pale lady, her skin is like diet white bread. It's very thin. It can be a half a millimeter, 0.5 to 0.75 millimeters. Then in a young, healthy, I live in Hawaii, depending on the ethnic group, their ancestry, their skin can be much thicker. So I would have to have my needle out a little bit further. So that's why you want to do the depth test. The needle depth test is very simple. This is what I do before I start every case, and it's worth the time to take. Turn on your handpiece, adjust the needle so it's barely out, and then go over a little area you're going to go on in the eyelid. Wipe off the skin with a little Numpot, and if there's no color, put your needle out just a little bit more. Really important, you may have to do that 2 or 3 times. It's really important not to start with your needle out too far. Why? Because if you start with your needle out too far, you go too deep, and that's when you get into bleeding and swelling, and you're damaging the canvas you're working on, and your chances of getting good color retention are poor. Now, we were all taught to stretch the eyelid to the earlobe, but don't. Only stretch it over a little ½ an inch area. If you overstretch the eyelid, you're distorting it, and your needle's either going to bounce off it or it's going to go in it at uneven depths. You're even going to get color where you don't really want it. So just work in a tiny micro grip area of about ½ an inch between your index finger and your thumb. We all know that we shouldn't overwork the skin, but perfectionists have a problem because they want to do such a good job. So they spend the first half of their procedure putting color in and the last half getting color out. So it's better, don't be a perfectionist, please. Just spend the half putting color in and don't overwork it, because if you do, you'll get scabs and the color will come out. What should happen is the color should flake off like fish food, like little flakes of color, in about 3 to 4 days. So in summary, your clients should not lose color when they're healed. That means you have to pay attention and do a good job, because you won't have a fudge factor. Use firm, even pressure. Don't just dance on the skin and be afraid that you're going to hurt them. If your needle is not out too far when you're doing your depth test, then you press firmly, like you're pressing in a thumbtack. Firm, even pressure. Make sure your needle's not running on empty and that you have plenty of pigment. Of course, Color Source is my favorite pigment. I oftentimes use a mixture of black bean with new black, or black bean even with pitch black. You can use brunette. And if you want to lighten up your eyeliner, you can make a last pass with cocoa new brown. Some people like brown eyeliner, but always have a black base. So make a coat or two of black and then go over the black eyeliner with a brown color. And that way you'll get a rich deep brown instead of a pale red brown eyeliner. Just as a note, one of my favorite eyeliner colors is Pansy. It's a very rich bronzy purple in the eyeliner. Fabulous. You all know how much I love the slope technique. I use only slope needles. That's because all the color goes in at the same depth at the same time. So I'm not getting any blotchy results. So it's really putting in color more effectively. I can line with it, I can shade with the slopes, and there are 4 slope needles that you can choose from. That's the end of this little question. I hope you found it helpful. Aloha and mahalo.